Okay, so this, so I'm Sam, I can just put that to everyone. This is a presentation that we would normally give to like a client who we're trying to court maybe. And like you guys are probably experiencing as you start to talk about design thinking, not everyone knows exactly what it is. So we essentially started a business that is kind of confusing to a whole lot of people that we're trying to sell this service to. And I would say it's not like we started a barber shop where everyone's like, yeah, I get it, you cut my hair and like I need to rub your ear or something. It can take sometimes up to a year for us to win a client over, and we have to explain this multiple times over and over again. So that's why we kind of created things like cards that I think some of you saw, and I have a bunch of them with me, so whoever wants one, come see me later, and I've got like 20 sets. You have one. So the cards, things like this, which like try to explain case studies or show people kind of walk through what's going to happen. So that's what this is. DORIS is an acronym. It stands for Design Oriented Research for Impactful Solutions. If you guys aren't sleeping, there's no F in DORIS, but it's a little F in that acronym. And then DORIS is also my grandmother. She lived to be 98. And so we named the company after her because this is a company that really focuses on people. We're not architects, we're not interior designers, and this will make sense why I'm saying that once we get into this whole thing, but we're not like focusing on maybe the physical outcome of what happens, but we're really focusing on the people and the experience that we go through to get to that outcome. So naming the company after, business after our person made a lot of sense to us. Like that. And we're trying to work, the reason why the green highlight on the width there, we're specifically trying to work with people, not for people. So we're not going to go in and do something for somebody. We would never do that. We'll only agree to go and work with a company if they're going to collaborate with us the entire time. So that's really important. All right. So what are we actually trying to do? So we're a design research firm, and we're trying to empower people to make sense of what we call a fuzzy situation. So here there's some words that sometimes the clients like, what is that? They're like, design research, I've never heard of that before. Like, are you making that up? Are you putting those two words together? And I usually pause and say, go ahead and Google it, but not while I'm talking to you, because that's rude. But yeah, so that's something that, again, we're educating, so we have to start to tell people right away what we're doing. Fuzzy situation, kind of a funny word, but that's really like an easy way for us to say, like, you have something, some kind of problem, but people don't like to hear that they have problems sometimes, so they're thinking, a fuzzy situation, you know, it's something that we don't know about fully, and we want to help you figure that out. So that's where we start with our clients. So this presentation talks about these four things. We'll start with what do we believe in. We think it's really important to kind of, this is almost like the why does DORIS even exist. So there's sort of 5 things that we hit on. So the first one is we think that to design means to problem solve. So sometimes, like, you know, if I'm telling my great aunt that I'm a designer, she's like, great, come over and pick out my curtains. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. But so we kind of try to tell people ahead of time, like, this is a serious thing. We're serious intellectual people that we're going to help you solve a problem. We're not going to pick your paint colors. Some people, you know, some designers will do that, and that's very important. There's very important things that go along with that. It's not the whole of the idea there. We think in order to design, we need people to be creative. So the next one, this one gets a little controversial, especially if I'm delivering this to an architectural or an interior design firm or any creative firm. We think all people are creative, and so sometimes people who are creatives get mad at me at this one. They're like, no, they're not. But we really think that creativity is just the ability to come up with an idea. So every human on earth actually has that ability. Every human can generate. That's just normal and natural. They can come up with really crappy ideas, but we don't care. Usually we're just looking for quantity of ideas, lots of ideas. So because of that, something that we very much value at DORIS is ideas. So we don't care about your title. We don't care if you're the intern or the CEO or whoever you are. We just want your ideas. We want to harvest them. That's what's important to us. And because of that, I'd like to include everybody. So when we go to work with our clients, we won't work with 3 top executives at this particular place of business or whoever we're working with. We really want to work with every single person in that organization if we can. And we will literally talk with 150 people at an insurance company to find out what makes them tick. Sometimes they can't go to that length, but we always try to get to as many people as we possibly can to understand them fully. Okay, and the last one is just really cutesy. This one's more about, not necessarily about you guys, but sometimes we have to tell people that we're trying to sell this service to, that we're unique and special, like Snowflake, super corny. But we don't think that anyone necessarily does exactly what we do in Indianapolis or in this region per se, which is good and bad maybe. So it's great to have competition. Like, you know, if you went to Broad Ripple and there's only one bar, you might not go there. But if there's like 30 bars and you have all those to choose from, it's like better for all of them, the tide rises. So if one of you would like to start a design thinking research organization in Indianapolis, that might be really helpful. All right, and this is again when people are like, well, are you legitimate? Like, have you actually worked with people who mean anything around town? And we're like, yeah, come and inspired us to do something, so we're good. Okay, so what do we do? All right, so I have a degree in interior design as an undergrad and a graduate degree in design research and design thinking. So we use at DORIS design research to investigate challenges that exist with physical workspaces. This is this weird little niche that we've plugged into. So we could use design research to solve all kinds of problems. We just happen to plug it into this one little area. That's it. So that's what we're trying to do at DORIS. How DORIS kind of came about is when I was in your shoes in grad school, I actually did a thesis project second year, like you guys will do. And the project was so successful, it turned into this business. It was not the intent. I didn't want to start a business. I really just wanted to go somewhere and make money. That's not what happens when you start a business, just so you know. But so this is how this whole thing kind of spun out. So at DORIS, what we're doing is we're providing an experience or a process for our clients and for the people that choose to work with us. And then those people are, they're the people in the ideas. So they're the people who are going to be the future design users. Their content we're process. So they're pushing in all kinds of content to whatever's happening, and we're just kind of helping manage that for them. So we're never going into our clients and saying, you would be so much more effective if you put a swimming pool in the middle of your office. We know you would be more effective if you did that. We don't say that. We let them say that to us. So we're trying to capture that. All right, how do we work? Okay, so this is a case study. So you guys have seen, some of you have seen the cards, some of you in here probably haven't. So we have this little deck of cards that help these characters. We created these to help explain our process. So again, see me afterward, and you all can have a set of cards that's just like close to enough. So in this card deck, the first card is Doris. She looks like my dear old granny with a little bun on her head. And she's trying to just basically tell you that this is a design thinking process. You could apply this process to anything in your life, anything in the world. We happen to be applying it to this like weird little niche that's your physical office space. And then there's also a card that talks about our 8-step process. And our process kind of evolves over time. We're always like adding or taking out different methods or parts of it. It started out as like a 6-step process, and then we tweaked it into 8. So it can, processes can change. All right, so Fuzzy, the instigator, is not even a person. He's the first character in this process deck. He's representing this step 1, the fuzzy situation. So this is when we're going into a client, well, they've usually called us in for some reason, and we're trying to figure out what that reason is. They have some kind of a fuzzy situation. Sometimes it's things like, our office is terrible. Well, we can't attract any talent to come work here. We don't know why. Well, everyone says our conference rooms are always booked, but it doesn't look like it on our scheduler. We can't figure that out. What's going on? Or there's usually something that they think they have some kind of challenge with, but they can't get their arms wrapped around it. Or sometimes it's like, we're moving in 18 months, but we don't know what to do with our new office space, whatever. There's some kind of fuzzy situations. So this is a case study surrounding Smallbox. Does anyone know what Smallbox? Yeah, okay. So they're like, I would call them like a marketing, web-based agency in Indianapolis. And they were a startup maybe 10 years ago, and they're not a startup anymore, definitely. But they kind of look like a startup. If you go in their office, it's kind of all cobbled together with like stuff from the owner's basement or whatever. And so it's not exactly what maybe they want to send, what message they want to send. So they were trying to figure out, this is is their like fuzzy situation, what must happen to take small boxes work environment to the next level. So that's kind of what they gave us, real loose to start with. So then once a client gives us that fuzzy situation, they talk to us about what's going on, usually it's a few people, we write some kind of project scope, and then if they sign off on that and say, yeah, go for it guys, we think this is it, then we start to do what we call project orientation. So this is really important because we have a ton of stakeholders usually we're trying to figure out how to engage, and we need them to know that something's about to happen, that they're going to be involved in a project. So project orientation happened at Small Box with 18 people. This is a really small project for us, small project at Small Box. But we can run our projects, we've done one with like 7 people, we can do it, we've done one up to 250 stakeholders. So you can really scale this process up and down. So we kick off at these meetings, because 18 people were there. And basically what happens is we get the researchers in the room, so whoever's on this team with me will come in there and be like, hey everyone, we're gonna do something, here's our faces. We're gonna be all up in your business for like this amount of 10 weeks or something. And then we start collecting data from them right away. So this is a quantitative data gathering worksheet. They're giving us some self-reported data on where they're spending some time. This is a qualitative data gathering worksheet they did. They're filling in answers on one word on how they would describe something qualitatively. And then we immediately always start an email campaign with them. So it's really important to continue to keep the trust of the stakeholders as you're moving throughout any kind of design thinking process with them. So we have to tell them all the time what's happening. If we just go dead silent after our kickoff meeting, people are gonna be like, where did that research team go? I thought they were here, and we're like in a corner interviewing somebody for 30 minutes. They haven't seen us. So we continually give them emails, and they're usually funny and engageable and visual. So we try to make sure it's not like a, we will be in your office on this day. It's like, hey, party people, we're doing something. There's something interesting about the email that's different from a normal email. This is an example of a GIF we would maybe put in one of our initial kickoff emails. So people in that initial kickoff meeting wrote on this sheet of paper some answer to this question, and then we're feeding it back to them in a GIF. So at this moment, they're getting research back. They're taking a look at their research right away, or the data that they've given us. They're also seeing it come through in their own handwriting. So that's really important because when it's in their own handwriting, they can start to gain trust in the researchers. Like, oh, they're not tainting our data in any way. We can see that it's coming directly from them back, right? Did you guys see the handlebar mustache guy? Yeah, okay. Okay, so that's something that we'll do right away. Making sure that they trust and understand how you're using their data. Okay, so after we kick off, I'm going to move into step 3, fact finding. And we do a couple of things here, one of which is ethnographic research. But we try not to say that because it scares people, so we call it shadowing. So we'll interview usually a lot of people one-on-one. Some people will be like, why do you need to interview 150 people when you can probably get the answers out of 25 of them? Well, in design research, we definitely care about outliers. We think they can give us the long view sometimes. So sometimes that 150th person will give us some strange answer that we're like, whoa, didn't know about that. And that's super helpful. But also when I can spend that much time with all of them, they start to engage better in the project will help change down the road. So we do those things. We do a bunch of other things. So we did a Small Box. So they did, the 18 of them filled out a series of worksheets. We interviewed them on camera, totally unusual. We never do that. We did it with them because we knew them really well. The reason we would never do this normally with other people is because it's scary for them. They'll like kind of lose trust or they'll not want to open up to us on camera. But Small Box was gracious enough to do this. We had a really great case study to share afterward. It's 6 employees, so we shadowed 6 employees. So 2 hours each, we just sit in an office with 6 different employees and kind of watch how they work, like fishing, and kind of be quiet and watch what they're doing. And then we interviewed 3 of their clients. So sometimes we'll interview clients or whoever's maybe engaging with them in whatever way through their office. So this is a GIF that we created. This is an example of how we would show someone maybe how they finished a worksheet that we asked them to do. This is a compilation of them drawing common walking patterns they take as they travel throughout their building. So we feed this back to them in an email and say, what do you see? Tell us what you read in this data. So they're looking at this, and one of the comments they made was, we see more activity on the first floor than in the basement. So this is the first floor of the basement. So just one thing, they told us other things. a way we can start to engage them. Another exercise that we did with them was stickers on a floor plan. Adults love stickers as much as kids. So a lot of times we'll ask our clients to label on a floor plan. They get 4 stickers: most important, least important, most favorite, least favorite area. And so then they start to label them. And then later we create a heat map of all of the stickers that were placed. So look at that. When I take away the orange and red, those are the bad areas. We can start to see their basement has a lot of issues. Right? Yikes. And then we can weave into the story, okay, what more does that mean? So we talked to their clients gave us quotes like, it's deep, dark, and scary going into their basement. Let's never take a client down there again, is what I would say to them. Because that's not the takeaway I want from a client meeting. Just feeding them information about their space. Sometimes we're giving them quantitative information. This is just numbers we pull because we know kind of about square footage usage. So we were able to tell them you probably need a space that's about 4,000 square feet to accommodate what you're trying to get at. Conveniently, you have a building that's 8,000 square feet. So you're probably working in a building that's twice the size that your company needs, and you might have been out more than you can chew. Opportunity, maybe you have rentable square footage somewhere that you can make up some money. So things that we just try to start to tell them about or think about. Okay, so I'm kind of weaving through just a series of, we probably spent 2 hours with them downloading all the data we collected, but these are little snippets. So this is a question, this was asking cultural-based questions, like, want to understand what do they value, how do they behave, what do they believe in, things like that. This is a video, and they're going to talk about in this video why they actually work at this company. We ask this all the time, why do you work here? It's really funny to hear kind of how people answer this question. And they answered in a similar way to each other.
I choose to work at Small Box for a number of reasons.
Because of the people, the team. It's just a great team, great group of people to be around.
Small Box is like an extended family.
Small Box is by far the best group of people to work with and for.
There's variety in what we do, which is pretty exciting.
Small Box does not just care about money, they care about people and doing good things and making the world a better place, and that is why I have chosen to be a part of the team.
Okay, so they really love each other. They all want to just spend all day long with everybody there. So we hear different answers when we ask this question. Usually they fall into one of these 4 categories. So we hear people, mission, work, or compensation. The compensation is like the guy that's like, literally I showed up here because they paid me. That's it. That's the only reason. And then we're sad for that person. But we move on. So what we started to find is that when people say people or mission, they work a little bit more collaboratively. When they say work or compensation, they work a little bit more independently. We tell our clients at this point, it doesn't matter. It's not like a deal breaker here that, more people say they care about, well, maybe it is. But we're saying it just matters on how you plan your office space. So we're trying to spin the data into what it means for the office space, but this actually could be data they want to further investigate. Okay, so this is just another way, sometimes we'll show data. So this is a pie, just a simple pie chart. We try to layer data on top of each other. So we were asking them, do you get enough time to focus at work? So the green part of that big pie chart on the left is about half of them say, yeah, I have enough time to focus. And then over here in this pie chart, we're asking people to self-report. Where do they spend time? In the conference room, kitchens, things like that. This is purple. I don't know if you can tell that, but purple is when they're at their desk. So in the next graphic, keep an eye on the purple. Okay, so we found out by layering data, if you spend 50% or more of your day at your desk, self-reported, the green circle in the middle that I'm going to highlight here indicates that you say you have enough time to focus at work. So those people spending 50% or more time of the day at the desk, they have enough time to focus at work. People that spend less than 50% of their day at their desk, you'll see here red or yellow dot in the middle, meaning they don't have enough time to focus at work. So we're trying to learn something by this layering. We also are separating this data in a couple other ways. When we did this layering effect and separated these to top to bottom, the bottom is their leadership team. So leadership has enough time to focus and they're never at their desk. And then these are grouped by areas of the office. So this is a weird front area of the office that's really not conducive for people to do work at their desk. And then their clients are also talking about this. So there's this room that most of those executives are sitting in. It's also kind of this big collaboratorium or this big conference room. And their clients are saying it's weird for us to be in there and doing things when other people are trying to sit at their desks and work. So we're trying to help them understand maybe a problem they have in their office. So with a client, we would go through and weave the story together of all this data that we've just gathered. And usually it takes several weeks to get all this data picked up. And then our fourth step of our process is challenge defining. So we're trying to help our client make sure that they're focusing on the correct challenge to come to the table with solutions for. So Aaron the analyst, little bow tie man. Okay, so this is a tight shot of our office. So we do a lot of stuff digitally, obviously. In the end, things get put together digitally, but we work in analog a lot. You went to our office, just like you guys probably do here, it's a disaster of post-its. And like people who are not in our industry come in there and they're like, whoa, I'm overwhelmed right now by what you're doing. And they think we're like Russell Crowe from A Beautiful Mind. I'm like, no, we're not that. But and then I'll get the people who will say, why don't you just put this in Excel? And I'm like, that's such a good question, but I can't stand here and talk to my colleague and look at this giant wall and have all these colors, and we can't collaborate on it if it's in Excel. That doesn't work. I can move things in real time, we can do patterns, all this stuff. So working analog is huge for us. All right, so when we're doing this, when we're at our lab sorting through all this stuff, we're trying to figure out what's the difference between a problem, an opportunity, and a challenge, or we're trying to identify these things. So sometimes we have to kind of educate our clients here because people get a little fuzzy on what the difference is between these three things. Okay, so problem or opportunity. Let's say my cell phone breaks. Problem. Now I can't make phone calls and I'm kind of angry maybe. Opportunity. I'm a real Pollyanna and I'm now super excited that I can talk to people more face to face. Who cares about the digital world? Don't need it. Okay, but those two things are statements of fact. They end in maybe a period or an exclamation point. I cannot do anything with those as they stand. A challenge is a sentence with a question mark at the end of it. The challenge is what we're trying to get at. So if we frame this into how might I communicate with friends and family, I can actually give you an answer to that. That is something that I can actually go about solving because it has a question mark at the end. How you frame the challenge is really important. So we could have framed this saying, how might I fix my cell phone? And then we're going to get maybe more narrow solutions. But if I frame it like this, my solutions can become, I can learn how to do smoke signals. I can get a carrier pigeon. There's all kinds of different solutions to this that don't have to be me going to the Apple store at the fashion mall and being annoyed. There's other solutions there. So we're trying to help our clients figure out where's the right or most appropriate challenge space for you to be in. So at Smallbox, we create usually for our clients what we call a challenge map, so areas that they have challenges within. And then we usually break down, this one's gonna look just at the walls, and there's like a ton of little tiny areas within those that we're gonna try to address. So I'm kind of like flying through some details here, but so ultimately we're trying to write these challenge statements for our clients so they can actually have something that they can put together as a group and work on. So at Smallbox, there's a couple we've had several, but a couple of them here are what level of change might we be able to commit to in planning future office space changes for Smallbox? This is a really great question. Most clients would not go about answering this question. This is a group that knows the salaries of everyone in the company and they understand their own balance sheet. So them thinking about maybe the cost or cost associated with change to their office made a lot of sense. This one's a little lower level. How might our interior walls be utilized or changed moving into the future? So this one's just talking about interior walls. They had some really weird walls in this office. They knew they were going to stay in this space, and we were going to think about what we could do with those. Okay, so once we get this collection of challenge statements put together, which you guys have done all that in your projects, you know what I'm talking about here. And you've done this as well, I think. So then we try to get everyone together to generate around those ideas. So we'll hold 6 generative sessions with 25 people each if we need to get a lot of people through in a larger company. We want to give everyone a crack at solving these challenges so they can feel like they're a part of the solution. That's really important. Oh, and did you notice that person is straight out of the 80s and has a headband and really big hair? She's one of Okay, so when we go on site, we usually bring tools. We try to get people to free themselves from whatever it was, the burden that they were just working on before they came into this idea generating session. So we do things like bring Ideaprofen. This is just M&Ms, but we've rebranded it. So we'll hand these out. Actually, I have a bunch of these for you guys. See me after class. You can have one. So we'll frame things up like this to get people to kind of get into this right mental space. And then at Smallbox, we brought tools. This is a tool we created. They were kind of voting on how they might make change to their office, kind of large scale thinking. This is a big conversation we opened up for them. And then this one's a little more simple. This is where we just had really simple floor plans of their space, and then they were drawing in new ideas for how the walls would lay out. And then the stickers are, they're voting, again, adults and stickers. They love them. So use them as much as possible and try to get them to vote on stuff. All right, so after they generate on ideas, this is when our clients are usually, when I'm explaining all this to begin with, they're like usually kind of keeping up with me until about a year. And then prototyping, like, blows their mind and they're like, you're crazy. We're not doing that. Hopefully they do it. But anyway, so in prototyping, there's two characters. So Polly the prototyper is like really mean looking girl with the braids. And then Tess the tester who's laptop nerd. So they were kind of helping us figure this out. So one thing we learned really early on in prototyping was if we go back to our office and take all of the ideas that we've just gathered from everyone and we pick the ideas that they should prototype, we totally lose them. They will not understand why we just built something on cardboard and want them to go in their office. They don't get it. So what we have to do is go back to them and say, what do you want to prototype? So we lay out all the ideas we just gathered and then they pick. They somehow select the prototype. And then they actually figure out how to execute it. So this is a worksheet that we developed that this group is drawing how this prototype is going to work. So who's like, whoa, that drawing's pretty good. Maybe I wouldn't be able to do that good at drawing. Anyone thinking that? Anyone scared? Yeah, definitely. So this is where I'm like, okay, clients, usually the drawings are not that great. They kind of suck. They're usually like squares and triangles and things that are really abstract and trying to explain something simple, but this was a marketing agency and their creative director drew that. So we try to then take their drawings and figure out based on whatever the instructions they've given us, how we're going to help them execute that prototype. So we have signage, we usually hang up, signage is communicating that this whole process is really important. So we're saying, hey, people that, they're going to have clients and whoever in this office and there's goofy stuff happening. So we're saying, hey, prototype's happening, here's the idea we're testing, here's some information about it. And then here's what it looks like. And we labeled this doors cam because the photos are so terrible, I usually take them on my iPhone. So we're like trying to pretend that I had a like GoPro cam on or something. So this is their studio. They created this like studio space. They didn't have something like this. They had a bunch of extra space in the basement to test this out. So kind of big features of this are back there, those tactile surfaces. They have no tactile surfaces in their office. And this was something they wanted. So we just bought $60 worth of foam insulation from Lowe's and covered it in craft paper, and then they had tactile surface for a few weeks. We moved around or repurposed some furniture. There's some like key elements in here that made a lot of sense to them. They tested this for like a week and a half. This is another one. This is a conference room. So they wanted to test how big should a conference room be. That's the concept they're trying to figure out. So we have these foam blocks in our office we bring on site and build walls with them, just magnetic. And it helps with prototyping. So they're testing in a big room, how big should a conference room be? And this is one of my favorites. This is a real hot idea. Hopefully you can tell what that is, but it's hard to tell with the lights on. But this is literally a kitchen I printed on a plotter. And I killed the cyan. But they wanted a kitchen right at the front of their office. We walked in because it felt homey and that would make a lot of sense to them. So we tested it by just printing one, and then they tried, making lunch in there or whatever for a week. And as it turns out, they hated the idea. It didn't work, and that's really what we want to happen during prototyping. We really are looking for stuff to fail during rapid prototyping. So if it fails now, we can save them hundreds of thousands of dollars from making a bad decision down the road. So we learned from this that it wasn't the right thing. Although it looked really cool. Okay, so how did we learn? So We give everyone, usually at the organization that we're working with, a feedback journal. So they carry around these journals, or they have them at their desks or whatever, and when they engage with the prototypes, the journals are specific to each prototype, and we're asking questions, how is this working, or whatever, whatever questions we designed for the prototype. They have these like tactile things, and they're big and green, and they can't miss them. So they're giving us feedback in that way. And then also, we put comment cards at all the prototype sites, and the comment cards fold into paper airplanes, because we're trying to be as engageable as possible. So they write their comment, and they fold it up and shoot it into our bin, and thus they delivered a comment about their prototype. Okay, so once that all ends, we actually go back to our office and look at all the data, and then we write what we call an action plan. So in small box, kind of what the action plan looks like, comes in a nice document, and this is gonna house everything that we've learned. So sometimes there's like quantitative data, we can tell them which prototypes were more or less successful. The studios, green bar means it was really successful. The red bars, not so much. That far left prototype was the kitchen. So there are elements of that didn't work. So quantitatively, we can look at that. But then I think more importantly, qualitatively, we can tell them why it didn't work based on the comments that they gave us. So we'll tell them kind of an analysis of that data. And then a lot of times in the appendix, we'll write every single person's comments. Because again, it kind of maintains trust and honesty in the research. You can go back and look at it later. We'll do summaries of their challenge statements. So we went through that process of writing all those challenge statements. We'll write what our solution or our high-level solution is to that. And then a lot of times I like to give them quick wins. So they've just gone through this process with us. It's taken, 10 weeks or 20 weeks or whatever. We've riled up all these people in their office. We've got to get something that actually can happen right away. And they're usually pretty simple. The best take a couple, I can give an example. One group we were working with, like something that just really grinded the gears of everyone at this company was that they'd go into their conference room and none of the dry erase markers would work. So we were like, executive team, would you please buy as many possible dry erase markers as you can afford and fill your conference rooms? So it's like simple stuff like that that kind of get them going before they make the big changes. And then sometimes we'll write kind of an action plan and great, you should do this, and you should do this, and you should do this, and this kind of stuff to get you going. Also in our documents, we try to give them tools. So you guys do diverge and converge. Sometimes we'll use these like diverge, converge paddles or something like that in a meeting. So try and give them back. Like say make photocopies of these you can do in your office, or what are we doing, how are we doing it? It's a great question. So we'll put them in the document to try to get them to embrace that new way of thinking. And then the last step is ongoing engagement. There's Teddy the Thinker, his heart on his sweater, and Evan the Engager. So here's where we're just kind of staying with our clients. So I sometimes say this to people, and it's kind of frowned upon by anyone that's working with me, but I say we don't actually really do anything. We don't. We just research. So in the end, somebody's got to do something. So they've got to implement something. But we want to stick around as they're implementing or doing something. We just want to be able to be there and engage with them as they're doing it to say, hey, remember this bit of research that we found out early on. So, and sometimes we'll do something that's like a post-occupancy, or once they make the change, we'll ask them again, how's it going? Is it working? And it's awesome usually. So why does all this matter? This is the end here. Why does this matter? Okay, so you get, in the end, from us, you'll get this document. All this information about whatever we just studied. But we think, well, we think that's important. We think what's probably more important is the fact that you just sent everyone in your office potentially through this process. And they've had this experience of engaging with this problem, and now they understand why this is something that we want to focus on, or why we might want to make change. And the ISO should now understand more about why solutions you're presenting make more sense because you've included them. So this is kind of when we're trying to sell somebody on maybe working with us, but some other reasons for why this is important. Well, we know there's a talent shortage, believe it or not. Companies are always searching for talented people. So if you're talented in this room, good for you. You're definitely going to have a job when you leave here because companies are looking for you. When you go to look for a business to work, you're probably going to look at the physical surroundings of that place. But we know that the physical workspace has a direct ability to attract or retain top talent. So companies care about how their physical workspace looks because it's going to affect their most important asset, which is their employees. We know that if you include people in a process, it's going to create a greater sense of understanding. And understanding is ultimately going to breed to certain things for a client. So a greater sense of meaning for why their space maybe is the way it is. So if I've included all of you in how we should design this lab space here, you're going to know why it's that way. You're going to get the meaning behind it because you've been included. If you're included and you get the meaning, it'll have a greater sense of utility. So you'll use it the way it's maybe supposed to be used, the way you designed it to be used, therefore just use maybe more. And if it's used more, it'll probably last longer in terms of the fact that you won't have to change it again sooner. So we don't want to have some company build out some really awesome conference space, but then they have to change it in a year because no one wants to use it that way, right? So we're searching for longevity. Okay, so this is the end of the thing, but I'm going to play this little last film here. This is a question we ask a lot of our clients when we're interviewing them. It's kind of a leading question, but we're asking them to fill in the blank. So we say, when thinking about future change to your physical office space, how does it make you feel? And here's how they answer it.
Excited. It makes me feel excited.
Excited.
Encouraged.
Hopeful.
Indifferent.
Kind of feels like wishful thinking to me.
Relieved.
Excited, excited, and invigorated.
Eager, hopeful, excited.
Makes me feel excited.
I'm excited about it. Makes me feel excited.
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 So we usually hear from people, 75, 90% of people say the word excited, excitement, or something like that. So it's kind of this doesn't matter, maybe it matters to you guys, but this matters to clients because they want to do things that will engage their employees, and if it's something that's going to engage them in an excitable way, something they're excited about to get behind, this is a natural, no-brainer. Why wouldn't we do this? Why wouldn't we engage them in this process? They're going to be excited about it. And sometimes it helps us when we ask that question, we can give the data back to our clients and say, turns out there's a lot of indifference in this company, so what are we going to think about that? Well, how are we going to deal with those people? So you'll get them. So it's kind of it. That's what we do.